Now, with regard to toxicology, the father of toxicology is named Paracelsus, and he's famous for the phrase, if anybody ever asks you on a trivia question, what's the famous phrase of the father of modern toxicology? You go, the dose makes the poison. I like to paraphrase it. If something actually works, too much of it will hurt you. Conversely, if it's useless, it's absolutely safe. So, take your pick of it. Now, it's very hard to find cases of toxicity with vitamin D these days. So here's a paper from 1946 where they summarized all the case reports of people with vitamin D toxicity. In that era, they really didn't know much about doses. They say, well, we're going to give a milligram of this stuff to somebody, maybe 2 milligrams to that person, forgetting that a milligram is 40,000 units of vitamin D. And here are the symptoms of hypervitaminosis D. You get thirsty, you become anorexic, you vomit, you're tired, you've got malaise, all due to hypercalcemia, of course, right? Too much calcium. Why are you thirsty? Because you're trying to excrete the excess material. You have nausea, headache, constipation, abdominal pain. And the doses here that were used were well over 40,000 units per day and for weeks and weeks and weeks, right? This is a nice paper. It gives you context. As a laboratorian, I worked at a biochemistry laboratory in Toronto. There were some collaborators that were wondering what's going on with this man. He's a 29-year-old man, admitted to emergency the first time. He had right side flank pain, dry eyes, conjunctivitis, thirst, vomiting, renal failure. And the emergency doctors, you've got gastroenteritis, come back, you'll be feeling better before you know it. Well, he came back and they actually measured the serum calcium that day. And his calcium, sorry for the SI units, but 2.5 millimoles per liter is normal. His calcium was very high at 3.8 millimoles per liter. So they sent, trying to figure out why is there hypercalcemia in this patient with gastroenteritis. Well, they measured the 25 hydroxyvitamin D, and it came out as 1,555 nanomoles per liter. I will bet you the average one of you, if you did your blood test right now, would have a value of about 60 nanomoles per liter, or an American number is 22 nanograms per milliliter. So you've got something that's like well over an order of magnitude beyond the upper limit of normal for this person. So it became a mystery. And incidentally, that potent sharp end of the knife, the 125 dihydroxy-D, was pretty close to normal. It was only marginally higher. So what's going on? Why does this person have a high blood calcium? Well, we got a blood sample and ran it on a liquid chromatograph. This is an ultraviolet spectrum. And for 25 hydroxy-D, this 1,500 nanomoles per liter showed up very nicely with a classic vitamin D spectrum at the right elution time on the HPLC. We could see the 25 hydroxy-D, but what I'm not showing you is the best part. His vitamin D spectrum looked spectacular. Like he's got 7,000 nanomoles per liter of vitamin D in his bloodstream. You can see the vitamin D spectrum beautifully. And what I just showed you, that little line, was this one here. It all depends on how you run the scale. But this person was grossly intoxicated, and we had to figure out why, where. So they sent me all sorts of foods from, what these people were eating, because it turned out his dad had the same problem. So why does a young man and his dad show up with hypercalcemia and ridiculous vitamin D levels? So he looked at all sorts of foods. And one of the things I did was put the table sugar that they provided into just some water, and suddenly the crystals were floating on the top, and you could dissolve the crystals. They were pure vitamin D. Their table sugar had about a milligram of vitamin D per teaspoon. And it happened that, and I'm not allowed to tell you, but nobody knows who these people are now. The girlfriend, when she got mad at him, somehow had from her work place, crystalline vitamin D that she spiked into their table sugar. So they were taking about 1.5 million units of vitamin D whenever they had a cup of tea. And they had a ridiculous high vitamin D level. So this is just, how high it has to be. With that high of vitamin D and 25-hydroxy, it was saturating that vitamin D binding protein and releasing the 125 hormone. Even though its total level looked normal, the free level was very high. And a year later, he was still going out with the girl. Through